Hey there, Guitar Geeks. Daryl Schwenke with Guitar Geeks USA. I'm going to bring you, once again, DIY Guitar Boot Camp. Today we're going to do Pop That Top. And what we're going to do is make the most of that maple top that you got on your guitar. So basically we're going to take this. This is, once again, our Tom Top Amoon maple topped, multi-pieced, mahogany back, Les Paul type body. And actually, let's get this one right there going for you so you can see it nice and up close here. But as you can see, it's got a nice kind of tiger maple going on it right now. Whoa, we've got some coffee leakage going on though. We don't need that. Bad. Anyway, it's got a pretty decent top on it already. What we want to do though is, in order to accent these tiger stripes, we're going to dye them black. But first of all, and I do this even before, I did some light finish sanding on this already, but before taping or anything, I'm going to go ahead and sand the top first here. So, and the idea with this is these tops are very thin. This is a matter of a few sheets of paper, maybe thick. And you want to make sure that you don't sand through it. So what I'm going to do is, you do not want this to be wet in any way when you do this either, because then you'll just kind of, it bunches up and makes little wood balls, so to speak, on there. Anyway, so I'm just going to go over it, and the idea is to sort of loosen the pores of the wood. So as you can see, 150 grit disc here. And I'm just using one of the ones that I would typically use. And you can see it's got a little bit of sanding dust coming off of it. And I just want to break the surface of the wood open. It's been sitting around for a while. And look at that. I can see right here. If you look, the binding right here is coming up on the edge of the body. So I'm just lightly sanding that a little bit too, to sort of even that out. And with the top, it's important that you do that part right now. There's still going to be plenty of time to sand the rest of it if you need to before we do the back. We're going to have to protect the top anyway. The other thing is this, is do not use one of these for this process. Bad idea. And the reason is even though these are pretty gentle as far as sanders go, it can still get out of control. And with this top being as thin as it is, you don't want that to happen. Okay, so there's just little bits of dust coming off of here. You can see these gaps where the binding was a little bit much. And they're sort of not filling in, but evening out. Going to get all the way up in here. When you're up in this area, you want to be super careful. And I don't sand this too much right now, right here, because this is actually going to be hidden underneath the fretboard. Remember, we had that key shape right here. So that key shape is going to sit in there and hide that whole part. Well, this piece of binding right here extends slightly above. Show you there. See that? See how it extends up? It looks like a goof, but it's not. It's there to help close that gap. And the first time I built one of these, I cut that right off. Oh man, what a sloppy job they did. Well, it wasn't them doing a sloppy job. It was them closing that gap right there. And I actually went in the garbage and found that little sliver and stuffed it back in there and glued it in, and it came out okay. But that being said, save yourself the problem. So again, you're just wanting to get it so the dye will take right here, and you do want to get it back in there. I don't think it's going to show at all, but you might as well be dyeing it anyway. So again, and then I don't like using sanding blocks for this either, because this is an arch top. So you can see how there's a curvature in the top right here. If you start in on this with a sanding block, and I see it all the time, guys, you look online on the do-it-yourself forums and stuff out there, this part right here is sanded straight through, and it's because they got out a sanding block and went to town. And So again, and this to me is about getting off surface dirt and grease, finger grease. Try not to handle this too much until you don't really need to, the sides. But other than that, try not to touch the top too much. There's no real reason to. Okay, so believe it or not, that's about it. It's a little. Okay. So now, a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to feel it. And I want to feel all the way around here and feel that this binding. And you know what? I'm going to just give a slight rounding to this. The edge of the binding is really sharp. So I'm just going to take it off just a little bit, just like 2 passes, 3 passes on here. And that'll help smooth it out. Pardon me, so you don't have a sharp-edged guitar. That doesn't do you any good either. So again, you want this to come out looking like a vintage, nice instrument. And it doesn't take a lot of finesse. Just don't go crazy on it, and you'll be okay. But again, the idea is just to take the edge off of it. And it is okay to do that right here. Just a little bit. Notice I'm trying not to get over here too much, but you do want that, especially in that little bout right there. You would like to get that to be nice and smooth. Okay, and you can actually feel a nice difference. It makes it feel like a more worn-in guitar. And I'm going to show you what I do with these necks to make it actually a much nicer playing guitar. Using a power sander like that. So we'll get to that. Not everybody approves, but you'll see. All right, so what I want to do now, lightly get that off of there. It doesn't matter if there's any imperfections in the top. What you want to be looking for is glue blobs. And we're going to wet this in a second. If you remember yesterday, when I wetted it, we got a bubble. I think it's right here. And it seems like it went back down. I'm going to go ahead and dye over it in the hopes that it is just going to pop back down. If it doesn't, we'll deal with it after the first dye. We can always dye it again. But again, this first coat of dye is just to make these pop. We're going to sand most of it off of here so those lines stand out strong, and then you can put whatever color you want over it, and it doesn't matter. And by the way, you can do different colors with these too. If you wanted to do a dark brown under an orange or gold, or there's a whole bunch of different options of ways that you could do it, but this just has to be a dark color, then sanded back. And you can put any color over there, and like I said, do complementary things. Whatever. Anyway, so let's get on with what I like to do is, well, first of all, a little trick I have here. Instead of putting out newspaper, I just like to take a paper bag like this. So I'll cut down here. You can tear it if you want. Sure, but it's still alive. Hey, look at that. This one's even got a receipt inside of it. So I'm just going to cut down here, oh so carefully, and like so. And again here. And so I just basically made a flat surface here to work on. And you can see instantly it's dust-free, it's contaminant-free, because the only place this has ever been is the bag factory. So we got most of that dust off of there. Now what I want to do is go ahead and take a nasty old grandpa's t-shirt here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut, well, I'm going to actually cut 4 squares. And they're going to be about 8 to 10 inches by 8 to 10 inches. So we'll just cut some squares here. They don't have to be perfect squares. You can see that I did a folded over deal here, so I'm just going to cut this in 2. Okay, and here's what we do with those. So this is just because I want these to be ready right away. But what I do with these is I make a ball. So I just fold this in like this, fold it in, fold it in, fold it in, fold it in. And it makes this nice tight little ball right here, okay? And that's how we're going to go ahead. Some people actually take these and wrap them with another one like this. And the reason is when we put the dye on here, we're going to rub it in. You want to be able to have something good to grip onto that holds enough dye without it being soaked and wet and dripping, but holds enough dye that it's still applying it on there, but so that we can rub it in on here, okay? We're going to do a little water bath on this, and the reason is, and I was looking at this, I do want to pop this grain a little bit more, so I'm going to take warm water, and again, not get it wet, but I'm going to rub it in until it's wet. I know that bubble's going to come back up. And what it'll do is it'll actually make the wood a little bit fuzzy, and that's the wood just, again, opening up and to accept the dye. So we'll get it a little bit fuzzy, and then we're going to hit it with the dye. I already cooked up the dye a little while ago. I didn't actually cook it. But, anyway, so super important part here. Now, when we dye this, most of the time it doesn't take into this binding. But keep in mind that you're actually going to scrape this binding to get any excess dye off of there when we're done. We're going to take an X-Acto knife and literally run it over there and scrape the first edge of it off of there. Actually, I see an edge that I would like to. Right there. You can get that. I'm going to smooth that out a little bit before I put tape over it, because we are going to be attacking this. And actually, move that off of my nice clean paper here. Anyway, so we do, though, however, want to do our best to protect that, just to save ourselves some pain in the neck here. We also want to protect the neck pocket in here. And it's just because wood on wood, and with only glue in there, it's going to be our best option. Anything else, any paint, any stain, any of that stuff. So let's go ahead and tape that. I'm not going to worry about taping off the back of the guitar, because that's going to be dyed. I keep saying stain. I apologize for that. Staining and dyeing are two totally different things. The reason I do it this way is with stains and with sprays and with all that stuff, basically you have to have a spray booth. It just stinks. You need to have a shop. And this is sort of my shop, but it's really a living room. It's green screen living room. But anyway, I was concentrating on this at the same time. Run this all the way up to the edge. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm running this right around the edge and up to edge right there. Let me get some specks on here. Okay. And I'm working about 1 foot strips at a time. As I said, you're going to get dye on part of that, but if you can run it right up to the edge, as close as you can. And you want to leave yourself a little bit of wiggle room in these curved areas here. They tend to pull away. So we'll go over. But again, this doesn't have, you just want to really keep it off the wood. We want our colors on the top only. This back is going to be more of a, not a natural mahogany, but a traditional mahogany, I guess you would. tape, same thing again. Notice you don't want to pull tape too tight. If you pull masking tape like this, and you're like, if you notice, I'm pulling it tight, or just taut, I should say, in order for it to be straight enough. But if you pull it too hard, it actually curves. So you don't want to do that either. And what I'm doing when I do this is it's called burnishing. And I'm using extra pressure on the very tippy top side of the tape here to make sure that it seals down there so good, so we don't have any leaks. And we probably will anyway, but let's see. Well, I can't see that very good. To pay attention what's going on for you and what's going on for me at the same time here. All right, so almost there. Overlap this a little bit. And this is more about protection than we aren't creating fancy stripes or something we need to be super accurate with. So. All right. So one more time around here. Okay. Now, keep in mind when you're dyeing this stuff up, there are lots of ways to do this. And you know what? I think it's a smart idea for you to look around a little bit and see what some of the other techniques are out there. The guy from Kiesel Guitars has an excellent video out there that you can find. In fact, a lot of what I've learned, I learned from him. Anyway, so this is warm water. You can see it's a little steamy in there. And I'm just going to reach in here, and it's just, I'd say it's about 9,500 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to just dip this in here just a little bit. Okay, you can see I just got an area wet about the size of a quarter on there. And I'm going to rub more here, it looks like. Oh, there we go. So I want to saturate this wood, but just enough that it looks like it's saturating it, and that I know you can see how fast it's really going to go away. But the idea is this: get a little bit of water in the wood. Okay, we just opened up the pores to the wood. Get a little bit of water inside of it, and then when you put the dye on top of it, and again, this is theoretical, I suppose, on my part, but that water is going to suck that dye deeper down into the wood. So we're providing the dye a vehicle, sort of a pre-treatment, for it to sort of latch on in there. That, and you can see, man, this thing is going to pop. Don't see any glue mistakes on here, so I think I'm very lucky. I do see that my bubble's back. I'll show you in a minute, and we're not going to worry about it. If it went down before, there's no reason to futz with it. It went down already. Let's just go. Again, a lot of people spend too much time worrying about all of this, and you're going to see, not so much today, but when after we sand back and dye tomorrow, all right, look at that. Boom! Holy smokes. That looks pretty sweet, I gotta say. So that's just our water treatment, okay? So, you ready? Let's make it happen. So this is about a half a teaspoon, and I don't have a little scale to measure this all out, half a teaspoon of Keda dye, black stain. Okay, read the directions in here. It tells you exactly what to do. When you say, Daryl, 150 grit is insane. That's never going to be a nice guitar. Read the package. Okay, thank you. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to make another one of these balls right here. This one's too wet for me, and I don't want to dilute that down. So I want to do it fast before this dries out, though. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and re-wet where I see it drying out. That'll also tell you, the wood will tell you what it needs. So if you see one spot drying out before another, well, maybe it needs to get wet again. Flex in the wood too, so it's going to be an interesting guitar for sure. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, cut one of these again. Two, actually. And almost forgot, I've done this many, many times. Forgot, that is. And that is gloves. Get yourself a good pair of surgical gloves. And by the way, you don't have to mess with things like, what the heck are these called? Why did I forget this again? Tack cloths and that kind of thing. Not with this portion of it. As long as there's not any, big chunks on here or anything, you should be in good shape. But you do want to put gloves on. Very smart. Okay, and we can see the top is uniformly wet. I can see right in here, little area that I want it to be just a little bit wetter on. Wherever I put my little dabber. Dabber. Yeah. So again, I don't know if you can see that, but right here, a little dry right here too. That's actually right by my bubble, unfortunately, but you know what? I need the dye to get in there. Dot here. So as I said, it doesn't really matter what your end finish is going to be. As long as you do this step, it's going to really make it stand out. So I just find people enjoy building guitars more that they end up looking good when they're done. Couldn't be easier than this. So I'll open my black up here. Yeah. Put make our little ball a little tighter here. Ends in. And crumple. So, I'm just going to dip. It doesn't matter if it soaks in here. All right. And I'm going to start rubbing, and I'm going to start, you can really start anywhere, but I like to start in the middle. Look at that. Or I can see I want to probably make my, I see that, just expose some, like some adhesive, so we know where to work. We're going to have to work on that. So this is actually going to end up being a discovery coat, because now that I can see that, probably have to do a little work on this top. But wow, you can see that tiger coming through. I'll just save that little area. When I'm going all the way up to the edges here, some more glue. Awful hard to see it. There. Try to bury it. Sometimes you can bury it in dye. If not, we'll make it look like an accent. So, like it's part of the wood. All right. So I can see we have 3 areas that we're going to need to work on. So tomorrow we're going to have an extra step added because tomorrow night is when I'm going to be doing that. But don't get disheartened because easily saved. And it's much more obvious with this color on it than it. Okay, so I'm going to try this my little soaking technique. So I get concentrated amount on here. Puddles on there. Lessen it in any way. That rubbed in, that one worked a little bit. Yeah. See that? We almost got these ones taken care of over here. But anyway, it helped. Leave a puddle on there, but you can't really do that. So. All right, so you can see it's getting nice and coal black. Right where that bubble is, so that's probably why. Got another bubble right here. So we're done as far as application for tonight. So what we'll do tomorrow is we're going to actually ignore those initially. And the reason is once we sand this back, probably take just enough of the finish with us that you won't even notice that those were ever there. So yeah, I got this a little too wet, but that's cool. Anyway, prepare to be amazed. Tomorrow night is the night that we will sand this back, and that's usually when you get your first wow. Anyway, so we will look forward to seeing you then. Everybody have a good night, and any questions, go ahead, post them on Facebook, or you can, I guess there's not really a Facebook yet, but working on that. Post them on YouTube, and I'll talk with you guys soon. Geek out. Geek out. Oh, no.